What's going on, guys? Sam Adams here, and welcome to On the Topic Of. And I thought that I would be talking about Red Dead Redemption 2 today, but as it turns out, I'm going to be talking about the newest piece of Nintendo hardware that is coming into the Nintendo family, and that is the Nintendo Switch. Now, I did go through the trailer. I watched it probably, I would say, 3 or 4 times. I wrote down a lot of stuff, kind of had some questions, some statements, and whatnot. So we're going to be going through these and just kind of breaking down everything that we know about the Switch so far, which, of course, is the long, unannounced yet still announced NX. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. So the first thing that I noticed when I was going through the trailer is that the games are kind of taking the backseat to the hardware, which they definitely should, since this is showing off a new piece of hardware. And the first thing you notice is the weird controller called the JoyCon, which is obviously a play on the joypad and the controller kind of meshed into one, but it's a modular controller with a screen that plugs into the base that also doubles as a console. It's kind of hard to explain. I don't want to show pictures of this stuff. I might put small ones around the screen, but Nintendo is very picky about what they allow to be posted on YouTube, so I don't want to kind of upset the big daddy, so to speak. But there are different ways you can use the controller. The first, it has its basic form, which kind of reminds me of the controller for the Ouya, whatever you want to call it, that weird failed console that happened a couple of years ago. I will post a picture of that controller somewhere around here. But as you can see, they are probably a little bit similar in that design, though not by far whenever you get out of that standard realm of the controller itself. So then you can actually take this controller and take 2 parts of it off and plug those onto a tablet to make an NVIDIA Shield kind of experience. In fact, it is very reminiscent of the Wii U pad that we currently have, although obviously it's going to be much more powerful. We'll talk about that here in a second. But if you don't want to play like that, kind of like a big-ass Vita on the go kind of setup, it can also be taken apart and used like a standard controller or kind of like Wii Nunchuck. So you see this whenever the guy on the plane is playing his game. He has a little kickstand on the back of the Nintendo Switch. I almost called it a Wii U for some reason. And he literally is sitting there and he's got like 2 Wii Nunchucks. Like literally imagine if these were the parts of the controller, my DualShock 4 and my camcorder. You're literally sitting here like this and you're just kind of like, you know, you're doing this number. And it's not, it doesn't look comfortable, it doesn't look intuitive, but I mean, you can still do it. Now, whenever you do have everything set up like the NVIDIA Shield, you can actually take off each individual part of the controller that you put on to begin with and use both of those pieces as separate controllers, meaning that you literally have local multiplayer while using one system. And we see this in the trailer used in a pretty impressive way, where there's a group of 4 guys playing basketball in the middle of a park somewhere, and they decide to take a break and play some NBA. They have 2 Nintendo Switches, and they each take off a piece of each controller, and then they play sitting across from each other on 2 different Switch tablets. That was kind of mind-blowing that is actually going to happen, though yet again, kind of like the airplane thing, this doesn't look comfortable. It doesn't look like you're going to be enjoying playing this thing for long amounts of time, but it's still cool to be able to do it. Now, we're still unsure of how you are going to be able to control certain aspects of your character whenever you're doing this, though it does look like there's an extremely small D-pad on the top of each side of this tablet's controller, so perhaps that is the way you're going to be able to control your character, although there are going to have to be some interesting control schemes to make all of this really work out in the long run. Now, the good news is, for those of you that like the DualShock 4, that like the Xbox One controller, there is still going to be that classic Pro Controller experience that Nintendo has been offering for a couple of years now. Of course, that is shown off in the trailer, though I highly, highly doubt that is going to be included with the final big box release of the Nintendo Switch. That is probably going to have to be an external purchase, another $60 that you tack onto your price tag, though it is nice to know that they aren't putting all of their faith into this weird, new idea kind of controller design. So let's go ahead and talk about power. As we've known for a couple of months now, or as has been rumored for a couple of months now, NVIDIA is actually in the technology behind the Nintendo Switch, so it's pretty much a NVIDIA Shield on steroids as far as I can see. Now, the good thing is that the chip has been custom built to the Nintendo Switch. There is a new OS that has been built for this piece of hardware. Pretty much everything has been built for the Switch from the ground up. There isn't some kind of external chip that you would put in an NVIDIA Shield or some kind of PlayStation Vita knockoff or something along those lines that is coming in to the Nintendo Switch. It has all been designed for this piece of hardware itself, which kind of reinforces the idea that it's actually going to be good in my mind, because when something is built for something else from the ground up, you know that it is going to be structurally sound for the most part. It isn't going to have compatibility issues. It isn't going to have some kind of underlying issue. Hopefully, it is going to be just as good as I think that it will be. Now, it's not going to compete with the PlayStation 4. It's not going to compete with the Xbox One. It's not going to compete with the PC, especially those things whenever new versions of these things do come out, though it is going to excel in doing what Nintendo does best, which is offering the games and experiences that Nintendo fans expect, but it looks like we are going to be getting just a little bit more than what we would normally be getting from Nintendo. Which brings me to the games, and I'm going to stop here and go on a little rant for a minute. With the Nintendo Switch, it's just another method of delivery, and we so often focus on the hardware itself. With the PS4, the PS4 Pro, the Xbox One, the Xbox One S. With PC, guys, you've got the AMD GPUs, you've got the NVIDIA GPUs, all of this stuff going around. Monitors, controllers, it closes in on you, and you forget what we're all here for, and that is the games themselves. Hardware comes second in my mind. As long as you have an experience on a console that you enjoy, or a PC that you enjoy, or a handheld that you enjoy, or even if you want to play Candy Crush on your mobile, as long as you are enjoying the game you're playing, that's what it really is all about. So, all of that being said, what games are shown off in the trailer? Because that's what we're all here for. You've got a brand new Mario, which is pretty dang cool, kind of expected. You've got a Mario Kart game. Some people are saying it's an up-resed version of an older Mario Kart. I'm not so sure about that. Of course, I am not an aficionado on this kind of game, but if any of you have any kind of insight into that in the comments section, I would be greatly appreciated. Zelda Breath of the Wild. If they hadn't shown this off, there would probably be riots. And then you have Splatoon, presented in an interesting kind of esports format where the team is practicing at home, and then they take their console/controller hybrid into the arena, plug it in, and use the Pro controller that you can buy for the Switch to play their tournament, which I thought was an interesting way of presenting these games, though these were kind of expected. Now, what I didn't expect to see was an NBA title, let alone an NBA title being played by 4 dudes sitting in the middle of a park, and also Skyrim. I never thought that I would see Skyrim in a Nintendo hardware trailer. Now, it's unclear if this is the remastered version of Skyrim, if this is a port. I would assume it is the special edition that is coming out, I believe, next week on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. That would be pretty cool to see, though, of course, they are a little bit behind on the times if Skyrim is coming to the new Nintendo console, though it is still very cool to see, and it kind of gives you an idea of the games you can expect to come from the Nintendo Switch over the course of the next couple of years, though this is not by any means the finalization of the launch lineup. There are probably going to be way more games than this, because there are a lot of companies that are supporting this thing right out of the gate. In fact, there are over 50. I will throw up that graphic somewhere on the screen, probably right over my face. And then you've got Activision, Bethesda, Ubisoft, Square Enix, Epic Games. You have so many titles coming from all of these incredible companies that I am actually excited to see where the Switch does go over the course of the next couple of years. Now, a little something to throw in here on the side. There are no discs or Blu-rays with the Switch. It is all run on a chip, kind of like the DS. Now, it is not going to be a DS chip. It's not going to be a 3DS chip. In fact, it looks a little bit thicker than that. This is obviously something that is designed specifically for the Switch, so we'll just have to see how it goes. We don't really know how much information can be put on one of these chips, though if we do have a Skyrim on something the size of an SD card, it's probably a pretty impressive piece of technology. So what exactly are my thoughts on the Nintendo Switch? First off, this is exactly what Nintendo needed to do to kind of reel back in the hardcore gamer, because of course they had huge success with the Wii. Huge China. They had huge success with the Wii because of the way that it was innovative. You had this weird motion control gimmick, which actually turned out to be something that was pretty cool, and it's still the best-selling console of all time, I do believe, if that hasn't been broken by anything else. So that was a pretty significant release for them, but over the course of the Wii U's life cycle, as the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One did present more gaming experiences, it just kind of fell from being a cool place to play games to where your kids play games, or what you buy your grandkid for Christmas, instead of the go-to experience for hardcore gamers that are probably on the PS4, Xbox One, or a PC. With this Switch announcement, it still sets them apart from Sony and Microsoft, which are, needless to say, still going to be leading in the hardcore gaming experiences, though it does show that innovation that Nintendo is famous for with this new kind of design. It is definitely driving forward the gaming industry, so to speak. Not to say it's the spearhead, but it is showing an innovation of technology, and on top of that, you're also getting a lot of the companies that Microsoft and Sony have been kind of keeping exclusive from Nintendo over the course of the last couple of years, so you're bringing in a couple of more hardcore kinds of audiences with those particular companies showing support for the Switch. So now, as we've been talking, there's a significant mobile aspect of the Nintendo Switch that is being presented here. It's a big part of the new hardware. And so, as an owner of a PlayStation Vita currently, as a previous owner of the new Nintendo 3DS, which was supposedly the best handheld experience out there, I am not going to be bringing the Switch with me, most likely. I don't like playing games in public. Maybe it's something about my subconscious, maybe it's something about how I feel like people are looking at me whenever I'm sitting there, you know, going like this on a thing, and I'm like, you know, 20 or 21, whatever, you know, I don't know, it feels weird to me. And so that being said, seeing this dude on the plane sitting there on the Switch doing his Skyrim on an 8-hour flight, it just doesn't appeal to me. I can't see myself doing that. So if I can't see myself doing that, and I'm sitting here in a Twitch hoodie talking to you guys on a website that my channel is pretty much primarily devoted to gaming, how are the people in the public going to look at this thing and say, that's really gimmicky, that's really nerdy, I don't think I'm going to be using that. So a couple of more questions. Is this going to be the 3DS killer? The DS has been around for a long time, and I never thought that I would actually see the end of it. Though if Nintendo is driving the Switch forward with this kind of hybrid between a console and a handheld, I can't imagine they would want to provide competition to themselves. That just doesn't really make much sense to me. Now, they are probably going to continue supporting it, probably going to make new firmware for it, maybe even keep supporting the shop for a while, though I can't imagine it more than 2 or 3 years if they really want to drive the Switch home. Now, of course, we also have the questions of price and launch lineup. Obviously, you have a couple of games here that may or may not be included with the launch, but what is the price of this thing going to be? And I was asked the question of what is the ideal price for the Nintendo Switch, and I kind of answered with a counter question. How much would I pay for one? I would say right around $299, because it is still a new technology. It is still something that has not proven itself, so I would say $299 is where I would pay. More than likely, this thing is going to be $350 or $399. That's kind of my prediction for at least where the price is going to start out with whenever the console launches in March. So with this announcement, with this trailer this past week, a lot of our questions have been answered, but a lot of them have still been left unanswered, which is pretty much what you would expect from a console announcement trailer. Though that being said, one thing this trailer definitely needed to prove, and one thing it did prove to me, is that Nintendo still has a lot of life left. It still has a lot of innovation. It still has a lot of power to bring to the gaming industry. Now, as far as the trifecta goes, Nintendo was kind of falling out of it, leaving Sony and Microsoft over the course of the past couple of years, with the Wii U kind of tanking, aside from a couple of exclusives here and there that did kind of shine brighter than the other ones. Though that being said, the Switch was pretty much Nintendo's last big chance to prove that it had something to show for itself, and it most certainly has done that with this trailer. Now, is the actual console going to fulfill all the expectations that have been set as of yesterday? That's still yet to be seen. We'll see over the course of 2017, or at least the latter half after the first, I would say, couple of months, whenever it comes out in March. But it's going to be interesting to see how this one shapes up, but it looks like Nintendo is definitely showing that they still have a good bit of life left in the company itself. So there you guys have it. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you did, drop it a like and share it on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, MySpace, social media, whatever you might use. And if you happen to be new to the channel, please head over there and check out some of my other content, because I do upload new stuff like 3 or 4 days a week depending on the week. So there's always something new right here on the channel when you drop by to watch some videos. But as for right now, today is the day that Battlefield 1 comes out, so I'm going to go track my package because it's being delivered through Amazon in the next couple of hours, and I really want to play that thing. So I'll talk to you soon. Peace.